The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me on this Monday evening. We are a week away from Christmas. Wow, that just comes up really fast. I hope everybody has been having a good holiday season. It's very easy for me. I'm not going to lie. I don't go out shopping. I don't leave the house. I don't go to Target. Not that I don't like Target, but at this time of year, I know not to, quite frankly. So when everyone's upset about hearing Mariah Carey all the time, I have to admit, I don't go into the place and I don't hear it. So, it's just, it's just one of those things. But honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I love this time of year. I love all the snow. Wait, there is no snow. Never mind. I love the fact there is no snow. I know that a lot of you love your white Christmases and stuff, and I do truly sympathize with you, or is that empathize? But either way, we still are going to have a great time, and I hope everybody is going to have a great Christmas. I'm saying all this now because I won't be with you all on Christmas. Not that you'd listen to me on Christmas. Not that you should listen to me on Christmas. But if you did, that wouldn't be so bad either. This last weekend, I think I might have mentioned prior to Friday that I was going to take part at the seance over at Midwest Witchery and Healing. That was a lot of fun. That was really good. We had Jay Ryan, who is this outstanding psychic medium. He had a bunch of messages already for us when we got there, which was really interesting. He brought up something from my past that I was not overly thrilled about, but I mean, it was there. I went with Mandy, and Mandy was getting some great messages, and Carla was there, and there's some really interesting connections happening between Carla and somebody else that was there, that they knew each other without knowing each other, if that made any kind of sense. That's what this stuff is for. I highly recommend, if you are able to check out a gallery or a seance like that, definitely go and check it out. It's incredible. It's really eye-opening, and it could be very helpful as well, honestly. Speaking of helping, I find this very interesting, and we've had on Moon Girl before talking about dream interpretations and whatnot, but we're taking a slightly different look at it tonight, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with Meg Bartlett, who is an oracle and dream interpreter that specializes in nightmare analysis and guidance to the Twin Cities. Through 10 years of personal chronic nightmare experiences and weekly sleep paralysis episodes rooted in complex PTSD, Meg dug deep and did the work necessary to come out on the other side. She now lives an amazing life she never thought possible, free of nightmares, and has turned around to help people with similar experiences. Meg uses her extensive personal knowledge, intuitive abilities, and empathetic nature to help others connect to their own internal wisdom and leave demons behind. Meg, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Thank you so much, Greg. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I am so glad that you're here. And thank you once again. Just a little insight into how radio works, folks. It wasn't until this afternoon that we were able to catch up and commit that you're going to be on tonight. It's just kind of how it works. Even though I started putting all over the place that you were going to be on, maybe I'm intuitive.
Hey, that's probably it. You're tapping in.
I'm tapping in. It's such an interesting conversation. And one of the things that Meg has agreed to do is if we don't take calls here because I don't have Adam here with me tonight, but if you want to put into the chat and you go over to GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun on Facebook or AM 950 Radio on Facebook and you're listening to us live, put in the chat, there's a dream that you want interpreted. Meg has graciously agreed to do a look at it and talk about it. And that to me is really pretty outstanding, because I think that's putting you on the spot, but this is what you do, isn't it?
It is. I put myself on the spot all the time. I do a lot of local events here in the Twin Cities, and everything I do is, just in the moment. So I can take a look at anything, and I'd love to help anyone listening to the show tonight.
And you started off with your own nightmares, with your own situation. What, based on the bio that I read, it sounds like that it was a lot of self-help on your end to get yourself through it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I have a really interesting background. I've been all over the place. I was in the military actually for about 5 years as well. So my childhood was really traumatic. There were a lot of different things that happened during those years.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I knew I had to leave. So I'm 18 years old and things just are not working out. And I'm like, hey, if I want to continue being a part of this world, I really need to get out of here. I need to remove myself from the environment that I'm in. I need to go find something else. And the military is where I turned. I was a part of the Marine Corps for 5 years. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2015. And it was a really interesting, eye-opening experience, right? To be a part of not only a government organization, but also the military, right? A really regimented mentality. And so exposing myself to that was really interesting. Along that journey, I started having those nightmares when I was about 17 or 18. And I was having sleep paralysis at least once a week, which is really, really extreme. Most people will go their entire lives without having any aspect of sleep paralysis. And then there's about 20 to 30% of people who will have at least one episode. And then it's less than 1% of people who have sleep paralysis continuously. And if you've never had sleep paralysis before, let me just define that for you. Sleep paralysis is, we can go into some of the science and the physical aspect of what the body is doing during that later on. But basically you become aware within a dream right as you're about to wake up, but you kind of get stuck and you feel like you're conscious, but you can't move your body. You can't speak. You can't do anything. Some people feel a really dark presence in the room. Sometimes it's sitting on their chest. Sometimes it's in a corner. And it's just a really terrifying experience. So I was having all of these sleep paralysis episodes and nightmares. And I got to a point where I was like, I have to figure out what this is. I do not want to live my life like this anymore. It was really disrupting pretty much every aspect of my existence, right? Sleep is so crucial to the human experience. And so I got to a point where I just kept digging. I was going to traditional psychological therapy. I was, I started taking a more spiritual approach near the end of this as well. But I turned and I started looking at my nightmares, and by actually interacting with them and, doing a lot of self-study and self-application, I ended up seeing that my nightmares were actually my fears personified of coming into contact with the ideas of what I had experienced in childhood. And so, that's a really difficult process to work yourself through. And it took a lot of effort, but I'm on the other end now and it's been an amazing life. So
you mentioned that the nightmares started when you turned 17. Was it anything that happened during your time during that period of time that brought those nightmares back up? Or is that just something that you could say that it just generally reawakened? That maybe no reason to it.
Yeah, I would say it's actually, I became aware of the specifics of the nightmares. I've had nightmares most of my life, so even throughout childhood, but I really couldn't tell you what those nightmares were. It was when I was about 17 and 18 that I could tell you the exact nightmare that I was having, and it was recurring. So it was the same one over and over and over again. And that's as far back as I can remember that one.
It's really interesting. It's also very interesting when there are signs, and I don't necessarily mean nightmares, but in dreams that there are symbols that seem to be kind of maybe universal or maybe not as quite as universal, but as talked about. And Linda has something, but before I read what Linda says, I want to kind of, a forward piggyback, if that makes no sense whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
But but the thing is I had a dream where I was in Northeast Minneapolis, and it was nice out, and I'm walking down the sidewalk, and there is this snake hanging out of the tree, and it just looks at me. It's not very realistic looking, but it looks at me and it opens its mouth. And as soon as I crossed the other side of the tree, it was winter. And I had looked at that time that snakes often are looking like that. That's a symbol of change. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case, but I was like, you couldn't get more obvious than that, if that's truly what
Yeah.
that means. But may
Yeah.
I read to you what Linda wrote?
Yes. Can I actually share with you how I decide definitions real quick, just for your listeners, so they know
Please
what to
do.
expect through
Please
this?
do.
Okay, perfect. So when we're looking at, what does a specific piece of symbolism mean? Anybody can go to dreamdictionary.com, right? And look up the multitude of different things that are going to pop up. A dream dictionary is a great resource, but only for the initial, like getting the juices flowing.
Right.
Every single person on the face of the planet has their own unique dream language. Your dream language is shaped by your unique experiences, the emotions that you feel about those experiences, and your soul signature as an individual as well. And so what is, like the definition of a snake for one person might not be for another. A real quick example I always use to help people process this is, I'm a dog owner. I love my dog very much. For me, he represents sort of like a parent-child responsibility and love relationship in my dream space. But if someone had been attacked by a dog as a kid, that's not going to have the same definition. So I want everyone to know that while I'm, taking a look at some of your dreams and we're talking about these definitions, what is true for one person might not be true for another. And you always need to take your personal experience into context.
And with that, because you talk about you having your own abilities that you use in this, if you're using any sort of like intuitive abilities or anything, when does that come into play, like you putting that to somebody else who is having their, like, they'd like to have their dream looked at? I mean, is that something that is a major part from the start, or only if you feel like that there is going to be a lot more depth of layer to the dream itself, or what?
That's a great question. Yeah, as I have gotten more and more into this, I realize that I use it all the time. And so the way that I do this is I pick up on psychic or intuitive, empathetic information. Just your information is all around you, right? And as I'm talking to you, I can kind of pick up on that. I use it to help me narrow down the definition for a person. So if there's a, like a really dramatic life event that happened around a particular piece of imagery, I might be able to pick up on the emotional signature that you have tied to that memory, and that can help me further define it in the moment. So it's more of like it helps me streamline the process. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And I mean, because there has to be a point that you have, based on what you said about like the meanings and the symbolism in the dreams, there has to be more than just because it is like, okay, well, maybe snake doesn't mean that for, when we read Linda's, but then how do we go further on it? And I think that that kind of has to be, in my mind, the only way to go further on it without some sort of like really like psychological deep dive that might include like any sort of hypnotism or something like that. I mean, there's and that's what's so fascinating about this. So many layers. It doesn't have to be a nightmare either. It's just so many layers to a dream.
Correct. And I would say for anyone can learn to interpret their dreams, just tuning into your own resonance, right? Like, the right definition when you come across it. So a dream dictionary, that can be a great resource. Just read through the ones and see what lights you up. What do you feel in your gut, sort of thing.
Which is kind of with what we tell anybody if we're working on any sort of spirit work, right? Is it's all about the act of resonance, and
Absolutely.
and that you can't let somebody else tell you how you feel about things. You might have people like yourself and others help guide, help give information, but ultimately it comes down to the person themselves to be able to say that resonates with me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's very interesting. And just so you know, Linda, I am going to get to your stuff, but I'm going to get to that into the next break, only because I want to make sure that Meg has time to do this. Before we head off to break, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I am actually in the middle of a huge life shift. Right now, you can find me at my website, souldreamexperience.com. I'm not currently taking clients, but I will in the new year. If you join my email list, you can, just be notified whenever those open up. I am shifting sort of my business name and website though. So we'll be kind of migrating everything over. You can find me at Instagram as well, Soul Dream EXP, as in experience points. So
that's fantastic. That's really exciting. Just before we head off to break, Meg, I don't know if you could see over to your right-hand side. It says private chat. If you want to put that into the private chat, I will put it onto a banner and also put it into the comments for people who are interested as well. So why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead and take our first break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Meg Bartlett. We have Linda on deck. We're going to read what she wrote. Anyone who wants a dream interpretation, Meg is open to taking a look at them. We have a lot to get through. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Need a stone to change your luck or break a curse? Try larvikite, known for its hex-breaking powers. Need an herb to repel negative spirits? Try rue, used to repel demons and jinn. Want to create a decoy so black magic can't touch you? Make a witch bottle. For more magical advice, visit Magus Books in Minneapolis. We've got the tools and the expert advice you need to succeed against the dark arts. Find us at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or at magusbooks.com.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
The Tilted Tiki, located in downtown Stillwater, helps you get your tropical tiki vibe on with a large selection of fantastic tasting tiki cocktails served in unique and fun glasses, a menu of delicious food ranging from small bites, craft tacos, sandwiches, and more. Plus, don't forget they have live music Wednesday through Saturday nights. Located in downtown Stillwater, the Tilted Tiki is your tropical relaxation restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com. Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Come on out to the Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair in collaboration with Maria Shaw Minneapolis Convention, May 18th and 19th at the Doubletree by Hilton Minneapolis Airport Hotel, formerly known as the Marriott Airport Hotel. The Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair features a selection of highly skilled and exceptional local psychic readers, healers, and practitioners, ensuring a wide array of premium services like Reiki, past life regression, and so much more. All practitioners offer something unique to help you. You can pre-book practitioners before going to the event and even possibly win a gift basket by visiting 5 or more practitioners at the fair. Also, if you pre-book and prepay for a 30-minute session, you get a weekend pass for Maria's classes for free, normally a $59 value. And the first 25 people who show up Saturday and Sunday will get a free gift bag. Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair is May 18th and 19th at the DoubleTree by Hilton, Minneapolis Airport, 9 to 5 both days. It's only $10 to get in. Visit charvinityfairs.com for all the details.
And just a reminder to everybody, Midwest Witchery and Healing has one more class this year. It's on Wednesday, December 20th. That's this Wednesday, which Jody is teaching Opening Your Psychic Awareness at 6:30. Don't miss your chance to learn something new. I've heard so many people when we had Witch Jody on a couple weeks back that they were really excited about this course. I've talked to people who've taken it. If this is something that you've been interested in, opening your psychic awareness, go to MidwestWitcheryHealing.com. That's MidwestWitcheryHealing.com under events and classes. Sign up. And don't forget, Midwest Witchery and Healing has gift cards available if you have somebody that you want to give a gift to and they are very much into this or they want to find out more. Get a gift card over at Midwest Witchery and Healing. We have with us tonight Meg Bartlett. We've been talking about dream interpretation. We're going to talk about nightmare interpretation as well. I think you're seeing it play out being on radio at the moment. But, it's Meg, it's such a fascinating conversation. Can I read what Linda had put on, please?
Yeah, please do.
And once again, folks, if you have a dream you want interpreted, put it in the comments and see what Meg has to say about it. But Linda says, for a couple of nights in a row, I saw photos of snakes in my dreams. They were 3 photos. One snake was black and white, and the other 2 were solid colors of a deep jade and a deep blood red. And then she goes on. I'm going to add one more thing to it, and then I can go back to the other one if you like. But she says in the last 6 months, I've been able to read some data from a photo, and I was not afraid of the snake photos.
That's awesome. So the photos of the snakes were in your dreams. I think it's interesting that you saw the snakes as photos, right? So that's interesting because we're almost seeing information as yet another piece of information. Instead of just seeing a live snake in the dream, you saw it as a photo. So I would say there's almost, that movie Inception, where it's like, like the concept within the concept. So this is almost another way for you to explore a deeper concept. So it's showing you that there's layers here, right? Almost layers of an onion sort of thing. When we see snakes, yes, as you noted in the beginning, Greg, snakes can represent change. That is my go-to definition. And I think I would feel that here. When we're talking about snakes as well, they can also just, represent that we're not only changing, but what is the process of that change? A snake sheds its skin, right? And so a snake, as it grows, it outgrows its original layer. And so we have layers again, right? You were talking about the photos. So when we're thinking about the layers shedding, there could be a layer that you're recently, moving away from, and every ending is a new beginning. So as we're talking about the snakes, you have 3 of them there. One of them is black and white. I can see that as representing more of that yin and yang, or the opposites, right? Masculine and feminine. So that could say, something around, hey, maybe there's almost this balance. Maybe I'm shifting out of an old way of balance and into a new definition of what balance means for myself. When we look at the deep jade and the blood red, those are, almost like green and red colors. When we think about that, green, I would immediately go to heart center and heart chakra. So green for me really symbolizes maybe there's some self-love, or maybe, a concept of love that you're moving away from. And the red is more root chakra. So that's going to be foundational based. So with this dream as a whole, I would ask you, Linda, and this is, you can ask yourself, this is a rhetorical question, but these are food for thought. Is there anything where where, if there was a foundational way that you approached love in your life, or love with yourself, love with family, whatever that is for you, is that currently in the middle of a big shift? Is that currently changing? Perhaps there are people that you originally loved that are moving out of your life, or people that are coming in. In either way, in either direction, there can be, a sense of moving away from something. And then there's this period of recalibration in the middle. If the dream is telling you anything, I'd say sit within the recalibration and just be aware of what is changing in your life at this time. And don't worry about rushing forward right away. We all need that period of recalibration before we can start, like moving forward again. So, this is the perfect time to do that, as well as we're sitting in the season of winter here in the Midwest, right? Like, this is the perfect time for coming into ourselves and really sitting in that period of recalibration. Let me know if that resonates.
That's cool. Thank you for that. And we were talking with Meg Bartlett. We're talking about dream interpretation as well as nightmare interpretation. To find out more of what she does and how she can help you, go to souldreamexperience.com. Sign up for her mailing list there. Get on her newsletter mailing list. So I want to talk about ex-military and maybe even military people. And I obviously, one thing that people who come back from active service, they have the nightmare, especially if they've seen combat. And I think it's so easy to be like, well, that's from your experience being, active in combat, or being in the military or whatever else. But I think that has to be too easy of an explanation, right? Because there's probably more to it, even if it was that you still want to be able to try to put an end to that, right?
Yeah. So the nightmares, and for me, it's been a really unique experience because they started when I was so young, outside of that military experience. And then it kind of, just added on top. It was almost like adding another layer to it. The first thing is, it's so interesting for me to be a part of the military, and not just the military, but the Marine Corps. Like, that's a really intense branch to be a part of. And now to be doing, this energetic, psychological work, like, that's a huge 180, as some people would say it. But anyone who's joining the military is doing it for the purpose of, they want to better the world in some way. And maybe this is the only avenue that they know how right now. When it comes to, dealing with those nightmares and, with PTSD especially. So serving over in Afghanistan, we took mortar fire almost every night that I was there. And so you wake up in the middle of the night, you're jarred awake, and there's just, there's just mortar fire everywhere. You're taking bombs, and the bases, you have to remain within a shelter. Some people have to get up and move. It's a whole thing. And just the exposure to the noise over and over and over again, even not seeing combat. Thankfully, I didn't see combat. I saw some other things, but I didn't have to see combat. But just being exposed to that level of, I could die at any moment, that really does something to the brain, and it does something to the body before you even, deploy. And for people who have never deployed, they can still have a level of PTSD, even just from boot camp. Boot camp is a really intense experience. You're on a very regimented program. Sometimes people are almost shocked out of, their what they knew life to be before they enter this space. And whenever we talk about PTSD in general, it's all relative to the individual. There is no comparison, right? Because everything that you experience is only in the context of your reality. So what is really difficult for one person might not be that difficult for another, but it doesn't, there's no comparison between the two, because, it's only in the context of this other person's reality. So it really is a subjective experience.
Is there, I'm sure there is like a debrief in a sense when you're in the military, especially going overseas. I think about my great uncle Chet, who was on Normandy in June of 19 intense. And he tells the story of his his tank mate when they're on the beaches, and he popped his head out to see what was going on, and he fell back into the tank without a head. And the idea of, like, Uncle Chet was probably one of the most gentle people I've ever seen in my life. But he was also somebody who never, I had to ask him about his military experiences. He didn't freely give them. He, like I said, a gentle soul. But you got to think that that's just the outside appearance. I mean, I can't imagine really anybody being able to progress from any of that sort of thing. I mean, I guess, I'm trying to figure out how to say this, but I mean, it's just like, it seems like there needs to be like a deeper program to get our vets and our military who need it, like, to be able to get the help right away. And this seems like such a important piece of it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're bringing this up. It's really interesting. I kind of want to go back to, you were saying he was such a gentle soul. And I think being a part of the military actually has made me even more of a gentle soul. And that sounds a little bit backwards, right? But it's given me this insight into empathy for other people. A lot of people, and I did this for the first few years that I was out of the service. I think I've been out for about 8 years now. But for the first couple of years, I really put out my hard shell. But that's only because the interior was so soft, and I had so much empathy for the people who had experienced not only what I had been through, but the people on the other side, like the people that we were there to be in conflict with, right? Like when you go overseas, you see that we, like, literally everyone on the planet is just trying to live their best life. Literally everyone. And, sometimes you are just a pawn piece and you're trying to figure out, how do I help the world and how do I do this? And it makes you this loving, empathetic person. But sometimes it's so hard, especially in our society, when we've been set up to think about the military as you have to be gung ho, you have to be this, really, like stubborn, shelled person. And if you show us that you have a soft center, then that is wrong. And that's, really a tragedy in our society today. So we're in the middle of unpacking that, right? Like as a collective group. And I would say that all of these, men who really are, like softies at heart, but, they have that shelled exterior, they're just protecting themselves from what society has put on them, right? And I did that myself. so I would say that first of all. What was the second part of your question there?
Well, I think just the idea of how to get in, like how to get people help, almost in a way, maybe before they even realize they need it. You know what I mean? I mean, It just seems like, because I would suspect that I would suspect that it might come out of nowhere, perhaps.
Yes. So the help at the end is really, they do have a program that you take as you're exiting the military, but there's so much stigma around it and everyone's just like, oh no, it'll be fine. And you're so excited to get out anyways. You're just like, I'm almost free, like I'm ready to go. And it's just interesting because, they have a course or a class that you go to for like one day every week. It's like five days or something like that. And you walk away, but it's almost like 5 days, checking the box, one and done. But then you get out into the real world and it really is different, right? Like I completely struggled. The first year after I got out, I moved actually all the way across the country. I had been stationed in Maryland and I moved all the way to Washington State, to Seattle. Mm-hmm. And I was using my degree. I got a degree when I was in an environmental science, and I was trying to be a park ranger and like do all these things. But like the crushing shock of being a civilian again was so extensive, and I shoved it down. And so it's not even that the military is not doing their due diligence. I just don't think they know how, because it's such a systemic, like it's so societal and it's so conceptual and it's so individual to the experience. I was telling myself I didn't need help because I didn't want to have to need it until I was already in, the deepest part of the pit. So,
and that was something I was going to ask too. I mean, by definition of being in the military, especially like through the boot camp and stuff, where you need to be tough. Yeah. You have to show, and I can understand even any early onslaught of PTSD or anything said out loud might be contrived as a sign of weakness as well, especially if you're so close to getting out or so close to, the action.
And especially being female, I have to bring up my gender here. You know, I am a woman and I do identify as a woman. And one of the things that was really difficult being in the Marine Corps as a female was almost this extra expectation. I always had to prove myself. I am just as fast. I am just as strong. I am just as capable as my male counterparts. I can carry ammo cans like nobody's business, you know, like there's this aspect of having to show up. And it starts in boot camp, and it's hard because there's no right way to enter and exit war. You know, we're still figuring that out because war shouldn't exist in the first place, you know? So it's a completely human construct. And we're getting into like, you know, the big concept of it. But getting out, you know, it really is each individual's experience. And, you know, it's such a big issue, right? Helping those who have helped their country and getting out of that space. But also some of it is on the veterans. And I would say if there is any veteran listening to this, if you have any inkling that, hey, maybe I do need a little help, it's okay. And I would absolutely encourage you to seek that out. It is 100% worth it. You can show up for your own life better. You can show up for your loved ones better, your children better, your mothers and fathers, and everyone in your family can benefit from you saying, hey, you know what? My experience really sucked. Maybe I just want to talk to just one person one time about it. Maybe that's all you need for now, right? And I would highly encourage that.
That's amazing. I mean, you're absolutely right. You know, and one thing that you said that really sticks out to me, that I do think that if you're not, and I've never been in the military, but the idea of if you go and you're in military, there's, you know, war, skirmishes, whatever going on, the idea of the face of your enemy, that is such a more of a understanding for those who fight, because like you said, anyone on the other side, we're all, you know, everyone's pawns, even us, the civilians, in a sense. You know, we don't make the decisions to go to war. We don't, and like you said, this is a bigger thing than
oh yeah.
You know, normally we're talking about ghosts in the station. Tonight we're talking about the construct of war. But I mean, it's important because it is a matter of that. You got to remember that the people that are throwing bullets at you and you're throwing bullets at, they have a family. They're just trying to get through it alive as well. I don't think there are some absolutely that love the machine of the military, or love the machine of fighting in a skirmish of some kind, but that's not, I don't think that's just the exception to the rule, I would think.
I would say this is actually a very spiritual topic as well. Even though we're talking about the topic of war, when you talk about, you know, every person, every soul is coming to this planet to make this planet better. And war is the thing that we are trying to break down as souls from a very energetic perspective, right? We are trying to break it down with love and break it down with peace and break it down with, you know, like stepping into new ways of being. How can we better ourselves and our society? And so as we're talking about this is actually an incredibly spiritual and energetic topic, right? Because, you know, every time where we enter conflict, and especially in the dream space, conflict usually shows up as violent imagery. It usually shows up as war. It usually shows up as, you know, any gore that you see in dreams. This is nightmares, right? Like nightmares are usually about conflict. Yeah. You're either in conflict with yourself or you're in conflict with other people in your life. And so, you know, just like talking about this, we can also think of that, you know, like we're in the very physical layer, but there's also this really big energetic layer as we're speaking about all of this as well.
Absolutely. Why don't we go ahead and do this? We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. It's such an important conversation. What a great show tonight. Don't forget, if you have a question for Meg, whether it's just a question in general or you'd like a dream interpretation, put it in the comments. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Are you one of thousands of individuals who know you have psychic abilities but don't know how to tap into your higher self? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who offers classes that can help you reach your goals. Refined Divine holds classes Monday and Thursday at her 2 locations and via Zoom. Classes consist of manifestation, learning psychic abilities, shadow work, and healing trauma. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
This is Psychic Medium Deb. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Reach your highest level of consciousness and well-being with metamorphosisconnections.com. Metamorphosisconnections.com is an online directory of the best holistic and metaphysical practitioners to help you make your most informed choices. You can search metamorphosisconnections.com for classes, events, wellness and life coaches, plus metaphysical products and shops. You can also search for a wide array of healers from all modalities, including EFT, sound healing, energy healing, light therapy, ancestral healing, shamanic healing, reflexology, past life regressions, hypnotherapy, yoga, and more. And if you're not sure where to start, the search feature on metamorphosisconnections.com is tailored to help both those who know what they are looking for and those who are just starting. Come explore the possibilities for your higher self by visiting metamorphosisconnections.com. Their experienced practitioners can guide both beginners and those that are already on their spiritual journey. That's metamorphosisconnection.com, your link to direct you on your spiritual transformation.
Did you know that spiritual awakening is not all love and light? Surprise! Inner demons, ego deaths, and tower moments are on the horizon. But while life might hand you some harsh lessons, we've got the antidote to soothe your weary soul. Why not try a dragon's blood bath? Or schedule a Reiki aura repair? With books, herbs, talismans, candles, and more, we put the Shazam in shadow work. Visit Magus Books at 1848 Central Avenue Northeast in Minneapolis or magusbooks.com.
The Tilted Tiki, located in downtown Stillwater, helps you get your tropical tiki vibe on with a large selection of fantastic tasting tiki cocktails served in unique and fun glasses, a menu of delicious food ranging from small bites, craft tacos, sandwiches, and more. Plus, don't forget they have live music Wednesday through Saturday nights. Located in downtown Stillwater, the Tilted Tiki is your tropical relaxation restaurant in Minnesota. Visit thetiltedtiki.com.
Come on out to the Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair in collaboration with Maria Shaw Minneapolis Convention, May 18th and 19th at the DoubleTree by Hilton Minneapolis Airport Hotel, formerly known as the Marriott Airport Hotel. The Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair features a selection of highly skilled and exceptional local psychic readers, healers, and practitioners, ensuring a wide array of premium services like Reiki, past life regression, and so much more. All practitioners offer something unique to help you. You can pre-book practitioners before going to the event and even possibly win a gift basket by visiting 5 or more practitioners at the fair. Also, if you pre-book and prepay for a 30-minute session, you get a weekend pass for Maria's classes for free, normally a $59 value. And the first 25 people who show up Saturday and Sunday will get a free gift bag. Charvinity Psychic and Healing Fair is May 18th and 19th at the DoubleTree by Hilton, Minneapolis Airport, 9 to 5 both days. It's only $10 to get in. Visit charvinityfairs.com for all the details.
If you've been to Midwest Witchery and Healing lately, you should go and check out their new classroom expansion that has just opened. They're now offering more classes, so you can now learn tarot, astrology, herbalism, witchcraft, psychic enhancements, and much more. There is a lot going on over at Midwest Witchery and Healing. It's all good. Make sure to follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to be up to date on their class schedule, or go to MidwestWitcheryHealing.com and click on events and classes. And as a reminder, folks, you can get your gift cards there if you want to give someone something very special and awesome. But also remember that you can do online shopping there as well. So MidwestWitcheryHealing.com. It's well worth going, taking a look at. Now, join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to have on Char Savoy, who you may have heard on such radio programs as this one, where we are talking about, we're doing one question readings tomorrow, where if you have a question about your life, what's coming up maybe in 2024, or if you was wondering if you're going to get a job, like, am I going to get a job? All that good stuff. She's going to be here tomorrow to talk about it. As you all know, she is extraordinarily gifted, and it's going to be a great conversation. Wednesday, we have back on Angela Boley. You might remember her. She is a psychic medium that does these amazing paintings, but we're going to be talking with her about her tracking down a past life of hers that she remembers vividly. And she's trying to find out if she can find that person and find out more about it. Speaking of war, speaking of the military, he goes back to the First World War. It's an incredible journey. I'm not sure if we're going to get through it all in the 1 hour, but we're going to try, or at least start. That's going to be Wednesday. I have with me right now, though, and I'm really excited. What a conversation with this Meg Bartlett over at souldreamexperience.com. We've been talking about dream interpretation. We've been talking about nightmare interpretation. We've been talking a lot about the military, which I think it's so important. If you have a question for Meg, or if you'd like to have her try to do a dream interpretation, please put it in the comments. What about, Meg, what about the fact that, just some of us who haven't been in the military, obviously we get nightmares as well. Do you find any sort of commonality as to, like, when people come to you about nightmares? Is there like one thing that, I'm not saying everyone has the one thing, but maybe one thing that sticks out the most that is like, oh, well, this is why you're having these type of nightmares?
Yeah, actually, there is one overarching concept within this work, as doing nightmare analysis and helping people understand that about themselves. Nightmares are always you talking to yourself in some way. And so I think what I like to tell people is that your nightmares are actually one of the most beneficial types of dreams that you can have in your human experience, because they show you exactly where your fear lies. They are your fears personified, especially when it comes to sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis, you're almost catching yourself. And we touched on this a little bit in the beginning of the show, but you almost catch yourself in this moment. And it really feels like this dark presence. And usually when it comes to sleep paralysis, especially, I find that people with sleep paralysis have suppressed something so much that they've created this extra horrifying experience for themselves. And the only way to get through it is to unpack it, right? And so I want anyone out there, if you ever are waking up from a nightmare, the first thing to do is really just wake up and turn the lights on. Seriously, make yourself okay in the moment and come out of it. And then after that, you can start to lead within the ideas of, okay, this is a nightmare. I'm trying to tell myself something. So much during this lifetime, we have those moments where we're like, oh, it's not that bad. I can push it off. It's okay. And it really might be something that's bothering us. Your nightmares are asking you to answer the things that bother you, because only you can change your life. You are your own greatest catalyst for change, right? And so you're the only person who can make the changes that are necessary to live your life without fear. And the entire, like we go through so much in our lifetime, and we take things on and we pull things off, and it's a whole thing, right? But our nightmares are really there to show us exactly what we are fearing in the moment, or where conflict exists or dissonance. And you can get a lot from your nightmares. And they're a great way to self-reflect and say, okay, what is really going on in my life right now? What am I not showing myself? And then you can do something about it.
What happens when it's reoccurring? Because sure, once in a while you get those nightmares. There's like, oh, what's going on there? But when you're getting them either multiple nights or a few times a week, is that like kind of like at a very critical point then?
Yes, it is. Recurring dreams are you trying to tell yourself the exact same message over and over again because you're ignoring it. So if you have those recurring nightmares, right? If it's the same theme, even if it's not the same imagery, if it's the same theme, or maybe there's like a similar place that you go. Let's talk about houses real quick. I feel like someone out there, one listener might need me to talk about houses. There's something where a house in the dream space, I really think it represents our, psychological structure. So the main floor of a house in the dream space represents our everyday thoughts, like I'm going to work, I'm coming home, it's my family, I'm in the living room, the kitchen, these are very like middle life experiences. When we talk about the attic as a part of the house, that's our spiritual or religious thoughts, our thoughts about what else is out there, like how do I connect to the universe? And then the basement, which is where most nightmares in houses occur, right? Like that's our subconscious, and that's the skeletons in the closet, like that's the dark stuff that we don't really want to look at. Or it's the stuff where we put all the boxes downstairs and we just look away and pretend they're not there, and so when you're thinking about houses in the dream dream space, that can just, right away show you exactly, where you're experiencing some of that fear or conflict in your life. If you're having an argument with someone in the kitchen of a home in your dream space, then, is there someone in your waking life or someone in your family that you're currently in conflict with? If it's in the basement, it's usually about yourself.
Can I switch gears a little bit on here? Because you made me think about something. And it's not nightmare per se. It was not nightmare at all. You lose somebody. You lose someone close to you. What's do you see anything common in dreams about loved ones? And it's a two-part question. Loved ones actually coming back in the dream, that they're actually truly your loved ones and not your personification from your brain.
Absolutely. There's two different ways that I talk about past loved ones in the dream space, and we call those visitations as well. So visitation dreams are very common. That's actually one of the dream types that I get asked about the most often, because it usually sticks with people, right? They remember those ones because they're so emotionally impactful. And the emotion is really the key here, right? If you're really, attached to someone, let's start with the psychological definition, and then I'll take you to the spiritual. Whenever I talk to people about these, I like to say, always listen to what resonates for you. If one of these doesn't resonate, throw it out the window and take what sticks, right? So when we're looking at the psychological definition, I think that we can encounter our past loved ones here because if we, didn't find closure before this person passed, we still need that closure. Even though this other person has already passed on, we still need, that validation. We still need to close the loop, and it remains open until we do so. So some might say that the brain creates the imagery of this individual so that we can interact with them in the dream space, so that we can come to that conclusion and move on with our lives. And that's a part of the healing process. And it's really important to see that. When we talk about the spiritual, I really do believe, and I have experienced this many times myself, loved ones coming in and sitting with me. Usually it's a very emotional experience. They're there to tell me, hey, I'm okay. You're okay. I understand these things that we couldn't talk about in waking life. It's okay. And they're there for me. Right. And it can be incredibly validating. And it can just be really expansive and connecting as well. So visitations, absolutely, for sure.
Do you find or ever thought when people talk to you about visitations that those dreams tend to be more lucid? Where it's more maybe like they're realizing that this is not a dream per se, or that they, or part more of so that they realize that they are in a dream?
That's actually, I'm actually 50-50 on that. So, and I would like to talk about lucidity real quick. A lot of people think the definition of a lucid dream is that you have to be able to control it in some way. That's false. The only definition for a lucid dream is that you have awareness that it's a dream, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So even if you can't move anything around or change the scenery, if you're aware of that you're dreaming, that is still considered a lucid dream. But I get about half and half. There's a lot of people who wake up from those and they're like, oh my God, it feels so realistic, but they weren't aware in the dream. If you have a lucid dream, you will know it, right? You're aware in the dream. Yep. The first time I lucid dreamed, I was in the middle of a gas station in my dream. And all of a sudden I was like aware, and I was like, oh my God, this is a dream. I did it, and I was so excited. And I ran around asking everyone, do you know this is a dream? So
that's cool. And yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting because and I know the answer to this. I mean, I guess the thing is I run into people all the time, when I do my paranormal stuff, and they're like, I want to hear from my loved one. I'd love to hear. And I mean, we have it in our power to ask them to come to us in a dream, right? I mean,
yes. Yeah. Let's talk about intention real quick. So what I like to help my clients with is and this goes for anyone experiencing nightmares as well, you are the controller of your dream space. So even though you might still have those chronic nightmares, it's because a greater part of yourself is really trying to get you to pay attention to that message. But if you don't have chronic nightmares, or if you find a night where you don't have them, set an intention before you fall asleep. Yeah. I do like a really quick 5-minute ritual as I'm already laying in bed. So it literally takes, hardly anything. I lay there, I always clear my energy out. You might, take a visualization. You might just say the words clearing, clearing, clearing. That just helps you let go of the day. Sometimes you might do a brain dump, literally all of the thoughts in your head. If they're racing, write them all out on a physical piece of paper. There's like actual science behind, the connection between writing something out and the brain processing, and get those thoughts out. And then you can set the intention, and you just, if you're trying to connect with a past loved one, especially, really bring in like their energy, but loving energy. Always lead with love, because if it's not love, then you might, not come into contact with that, or it just might be difficult. You might be caught up in yourself. So always, think about love, think about the really like the best experiences you have ever had with that person, and ask them to come in. And the last thing with that is that there's a concept called dream lag. And this has been scientifically shown in studies where if you experience a new event, so the brain is trying to process memories in the dream space, it can take up to 3 to 4 days or nights for you to start to dream about that. And so don't give up after the first night, because dream lag might be in effect. So set the same intention for 3 to 4 nights in a row. And within those 3 to 4 nights, you might actually come into that visitation type dream.
That's amazing. And we have about 3 minutes left, and I want to quickly talk about the idea. I was just talking with somebody today about it. The idea of like you trying to penetrate into somebody else's dreams, like a loved one, like a living loved one, like a husband, wife, whatever, that you want to be able to share a moment, but while you're both are sleeping, and inhabit each other's dreams. Is that something you've run across before?
I've heard the concept. I like to steer my clients away from that, because consent is always an issue, right? So if you're with your partner and let's say you both want to meet up in the dream space, have a dedicated conversation beforehand so that you're both on the same page. Whenever we're trying to enter someone's dream space, especially I get this a lot with like questions of exes, right? Like if I'm curious about what my ex is going through, I would just steer clear of that, right? That can really, just the energy of that doesn't feel good, and that can really invite some negative karma in. And you don't need to know.
You don't need to know. And, I mean, that's kind of a whole other plateau, right? That's open can of worms just in general with whatever else is out there anyway. I've heard people try it, and it doesn't seem like something I'd be all that interested in myself, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, there's way more than enough to explore in your own dream space. I'll just let everyone know.
Well, and to your point too, I would love it if, because I know there's a number of people on here who have lost loved ones and stuff. And I would really like to see, reach out to us, reach out to Meg afterwards, or reach out to me. Let me know if it works. Send me a note at comment@ghostboxradio.com. I don't mean tomorrow, no, it didn't work. I'm just saying, try it if that's what you really want. I know so many people who would love to do that.
Yeah, and definitely give it a couple of days, right? That dream lag really is a thing. And don't give up after the first one.
No, not at all. Real fast before we wrap up, is it possible that your loved one appears to you, but it's such a deep part of your conscience that you may not remember it at all?
Yes, there are a ton of dreams, and this goes beyond loved ones, right? But any downloads or etheric information or anything like that. Sometimes we come into contact with these ideas, and it's too much for us to pull forward into waking life just yet. And so some people will go even several years, and then they'll suddenly remember a dream that they had 5 years ago, right? But they've finally reached a point where they can actually process that information. So yes.
How amazing. Once again, if you want to get a hold of Meg Bartlett, and you should, let's just put it that way, you should, you can go to souldreamexperience.com. You're around here locally. Do you have any shows coming up that you're going to be at?
Yeah. I'm looking at doing some of the Body Lab fairs next year. I'll also be at a Maria Shaw event in February. I think that is. I'm on the scene, so you can find me at a bunch of the upcoming things there.
I'm going to be there as well. I'm planning on it at least. So yeah, no, that's going to be fantastic. Definitely go check it out. If you have questions, whatever, I'm sure you'll be happy to answer anything.
Absolutely.
What a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on tonight, especially kind of last minute. I really do appreciate the talk.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Greg. This was really fun.
It was really fun. And I hope that we can have you on again. And what I forgot to tell you earlier is thank you so much for your service. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'd love to talk again sometime.
That was Meg Bartlett. Thank you so much for being on, Meg. Join us tomorrow. One question readings with Shar Everyone have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody.